Guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Eden Zero, Chapter 86. Yeah, that's right. I'm giving it to you guys a little bit of. I'm giving it to you guys like pretty much day earlier than I normally would. Mainly because, well, I I just kind of felt like it really. It's one of those times where I don't know. It was the chapter was released on Manga Rock, so I was like, you know what, I'll pretty much I'll give it to you guys anyway. Um, but okay, so Eden Zero, Chapter 86. So to start off, the chapter begins with Drakken Joe's enforcers having been pretty much brutally defeated, but by the Eden Zero crew, as a sort of reverse reflection to what happened the first time around, where the Eden Zero crew, where the Eden Zero crew and the Four Starshines were the ones in that position and were the ones who got defeated. And two things there. First is that, well, I understand why Mashima probably didn't want to show the fight, as he probably ended up just retreading a lot of stuff. I still would have liked to see how exactly the tables were turned, although it is definitely safe to assume that Hermit providing some assistance this time around, it was a big factor. Like she probably had some, like, if I had to take a guess of what happened, she probably had like some pretty much gun turrets. She probably had some like gun turrets armed and aimed at them while also like and assisting like from Witch and assisting Witch and basically in defeating them. So yeah, that's probably my guess as to what happened. But yeah, now, second is that while Drakken Joe's enforcers have been thoroughly beaten this time around, I can't help but feel a slight mistake was made by Rebecca recounting like all the future events in front of them. Like even with things going as well as they were in this chapter, I feel like just by virtue of Rebecca having just basically spouted all this in front of Drakken Joe's three enforcers, I feel that's gonna bite them in the ass in some way. Or maybe I'm just being paranoid about it after what happened last time. But yet it does feel like just with Rebecca doing that, it's gonna come back to haunt them all in some way. I don't know how, but it just feels like it. Um, after that, though, we pretty much cut back to the planning room and the discussion of how to defeat Drakken Joe, as well as each of his major forces, like the Element 4 and Jin and whatnot. And this bit right here, with them strategizing the next move, is honestly my favorite part of this chapter, because again, it's using Rebecca's knowledge of the future to formulate a plan around everyone's strengths, as well as how to subvert certain situations that have happened. But in order to prevent, just pretty much so we won't exactly get the same result as last time. Like the key thing here obviously is to prevent Drakken Joe from in order to prevent Drakken Joe from pretty much being able to, like, in order to corner our heroes or anything like that, like he did in that other timeline. And okay, and but one thing specifically for me that I loved when it comes to like this whole strategizing and whatnot is I absolutely love how Jin's past experience of being tricked by the fake Sister Ivory is gonna become a factor towards flipping the script on his loyalty towards Drakken Joe, and but pretty much having the real Sister Ivory being the one to in order to heal the one he in order to heal the person he wants, in order to heal his friend or his friend or lover or whoever that person is that Jin holds dear. Like it's really flipping the script on that. And not only is that putting like the real Sister Ivory in focus again, but because it actually feels like it's been a while since you pretty much served a key role in the story, but but now it's like, but now it's putting like it's putting focus it's putting focus on, it's putting her in a spotlight again, a position where she's like one of the main focal points of this strategy. And yeah, I just I love it for that. Like I love how like every single character, I like how every single character is playing a role, but specifically the character is playing a role now, but specifically the characters who haven't had a whole lot of spotlight put on them for a while now. So yeah, I can only help but kind of love this chapter for that. Is that the strategy they're coming up with is just putting more focus on these characters now. Now, obviously, when it comes to the whole plan, in order to help Jin and like flip the script on his loyalty to Drakken Joe, I imagine it's not going to be that easy as what I'm laying it out, and I do imagine Sylph will probably run interference in some way, but depending on how the whole thing itself plays out, we could end up seeing these two siblings like turn on each other, which would be the perfect way in order to cancel out that whole pretty much battle between that whole battle between Jin and Shiki from happening, and like preventing Shiki from being an extended battle with Jin, so he isn't weakened when he has to actually fight Drakken Joe himself. Now, one other thing is that we do briefly touch up once again on the fact that Noah had told Drakken Joe about Rebecca's power, and again, at this point, I'm more convinced than ever that Noah is a black market dealer disguising his operation under the guise of being a guild leader. But one thing I hadn't thought about now one thing I hadn't thought about before that's kind of obvious to me now is that the more I think about it, is that Noah at this point is like the Zeref of Eden Zero, in the sense where even though right now he is largely in the background and manipulating the situation to his advantage from afar, he is still largely being built up, and probably will eventually get to the point where he's going to be like a pretty much true end game villain. Like everything, I think, with everything that's being alluded to with Master Noah right now, it's all leading to him being like an end game villain, obviously, but like this Zeref or something like that. But the only thing we have to figure out right now is what exactly his motivations are, why he's doing all this. So yeah. And yeah, obviously the other big thing with this chapter is those final moments of our heroes pretty much going for a full charge invasion into Belial Gore. And for as bombastic as it is, it does make me realize that the best way to fight Drakken Joe was in fact to ultimately never give him time to think, because as we've seen, he's a master strategist, and if you give him an inch, he'll make a mile out of it. As we saw with, again, how things went before with him basically cornering our heroes at every turn. So it's an interesting subversion where charging right in without thinking too much is actually the best method in order to fight Drakken Joe right now. And yeah, obviously with them charging in full force, like pretty much Sabir, of course, ended up seeing them along with everyone else. So now it'll be interesting as to what circumstances our heroes are going to get reacquainted with Sabir, and what they'll have to do in order to prevent his death from happening, if they even meet again face to face to begin with. And honestly, the pretty much dialogue in that whole scene of Drakken Joe just kind of having a mild panic of the Eden Zero like crashing into the Belial Gore. A lot of his dialogue there, it very much kind of gives us the reason as to why Joe wanted the Eden Zero to begin with, because because as we see, the Eden Zero ship was powerful enough in order to pierce the Belial Gore's shields, and yeah, when you have a ship like that, you really don't want it on your. You really don't want a ship like that, like as against you. Which again, yeah, you don't want a ship like that used against you in any way. So, yeah, in that sense, you could say it did kind of it kind of doing the things this way. It kind of exposed why Drakken Joe wanted that ship to begin with. Now, um, so the final page has Drakken Joe saying, "Kill them all except number 30." And I don't know if that's a typo and that was meant to say number 29, but assuming that it is what was meant in that page, then it tells us that for as powerful as Rebecca's Cat Leaper is, Shiki's gravity ether gear is a much bigger prize to Drakken Joe. And just the fact that Shiki is labeled number 30 also says there is something that connects him back to basically the old model androids. Um, the biggest question mark I do have in all of this though is that with this different route that things are taking right now, the two things I definitely want to know is how Weiss is still going to lose his arm, and more importantly, how Shiki will awaken his overdrive, because that's the thing. That's the thing. With the reveal of the overdrive power and whatnot, when it comes to Ether Gear, it's still going to be an essential part of what's going to be required to defeat Drakken Joe himself. And I will admit, it is kind of the one gripe I have about this whole time turning backwards kind of setup, in the sense where it didn't, where obviously I think it would have been better. It would have been a better service if Shiki was ended up like being revived in some way, and through that revival his ether gear would have been awakened. But now I'm not sure how he's going to awaken his ether gear now. But I guess that's another part of the mystery that's just going to be fascinating to figure out, I guess. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Mr. Crunchyroll. That night of me, signing off. Later, guys.